I'd like to call tonight's meeting, May 19th, 2021 Select Board meeting to order. The time is 6:32 p.m. Next, we will review any changes to the agenda. Does anybody have any changes for anything on the first page of the agenda? Okay, item 4A, we're going to skip, and I'll explain why later. Mike's not going to be able to be with us tonight, but I'll tell you the alternative date. Anything else? No. Anything on page 2? Any agenda changes? I think we're pretty good. Looks. Yep. Okay. All right. Hearing no other changes, we'll next go on to approve the minutes from the May 5th, 2021 Select Board meeting. We'll take a look at page 1 of 4. Any changes on page 1 of 4?
Yes.
Okay, Stan, what did you see?
Let's see. No, I'm sorry. I'm looking at page 2.
All right. Anything on page 1, anyone? All right, page 2.
Just a minute. Hello?
Yes.
Is C to the grants on page 1 or 2? I don't have it.
Page 1 is the round schoolhouse.
Yes, the grant.
Yes.
On C, for the round schoolhouse, it says Historic Preservation Society. I think that's the wording. It should be Preservation Trust.
Oh. Okay. Preservation Trust.
You're right, Bruce. I should have caught that.
Okay.
Oh, you did it? That's all right.
Okay.
That's the end of the world.
Page 2 of 4, any changes to this?
Yes.
Stan, what did you see?
Under E, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th line down, there were 5 towns without cable. The number is 3,707 people without internet service.
3,307, not 3,507. Okay.
3707.
3707. Okay.
What
Anything else?
Could I have that number again?
I'm sorry, Peter. Yes, where it says there were 5 towns without cable, comma, the number that I had stated is, well, at least the number I'd written down. I don't know what came out of my mouth, but I think I said 3,707 people without internet service.
Oh, got it. One other thing, the last remark was about the Historic Preservation Society. That's actually the agenda heading, but I will change it.
Yes, it might have been something that I had written originally.
Please proceed.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on page 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Same section under EDV fiber, the 3rd bullet from the bottom. The estimated time for build out is 5 to 10 years.
Thank you. I wondered about that.
Yep.
I knew you would catch.
They're fast, but not that fast.
Anything else on page 2? Okay, page 3. Nothing on page 3?
Actually, I did have something on page 3. Down under the summary updates, under the select board chair report, the last paragraph, the second sentence says, Mr. Jones noted that the decision not to combine historical societies and building committees from different towns had been made some years ago. We should just strike the words "from different towns" because we were only talking about combining them within our town. Do you see where that is, Peter?
Yeah, I'm just searching. Okay, from different towns.
Yeah, so just take those 3 words out and then I think it's fine.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay. That was the only thing I had on that page.
All right. We'll move to page 404. Any edits on that page?
I'd
Okay.
like to make a comment. I'm a member of a couple of entities, some of which I'm secretary and some I'm not. But I've got to commend Peter on his minutes. He did a wonderful job.
No,
Thank you.
he's a pro. He's a pro.
Thank you.
All right, well, I would like to make a motion that we accept the minutes from Wednesday, May 5th, 2021 Select Board meeting as amended. May I have a second?
Second. Not that we're on a rush.
I think we got Bruce on a second. Any other discussion? Hearing
We got
none.
Frida.
All those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes accepted as amended. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Moving right along. Scheduled members of the public. I'll talk about that, Mike Masters, later on. We don't have any unscheduled. Under new business, disturbing the peace, noise complaints. Dan, you want to share with us the concern that were brought to your attention?
Yeah, 3 weekends ago and 2 weekends ago, there was at least one day in each weekend where there was excessive engine noise, revving of a car that I believe comes from down near Papoose Laneway. I suspect it may be the same person that's leaving the tire burnout marks on various roads in town. And it's very, it infringes on the peace and quiet, and you're trying to think, and it's unbelievably loud. I can't imagine what the person causing it is going through with his hearing. But when my wife went down to pick up the paper out of the reformer box one morning between those 2 weekends, there was someone walking on the road who lives in the general vicinity, and she said to my wife, "What do you think of that noise that's going on?" And my wife was trying to work actually one of the days that it was happening, and we had our slider open on the front of the house, and it was unbelievably loud. And frankly, it happened again 2 days ago, this past Monday, from about 1 to 4:30. There was intermittent parts where there was apparently a dirt bike being ridden as well, and it was just plain excessively loud. Now, we've had issues in the past with people shooting guns off at 11 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock at night, whatever. And at the time, a select board member went and talked with that person very kindly, and it stopped. And I don't know who the person is. I haven't made it a point of getting in my car and driving down there to just see where it's coming from while it's happening. But I'm wondering if anyone else has heard such things and what might occur to lessen it. It's a free country. We all should be able to do what we want as long as we're not inconveniencing other people. And that's what it is boiling down to. And I'm not being overly sensitive on this. There's other things, people using chainsaws at 6 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, and I don't complain about that. But other things, this is really loud, quite loud. So I guess, does anyone else experience that? Dot, I have to feel that given your location, if you've been home those 2 weekends or this past Monday, you probably heard it as well. Matter of fact, you got less obstruction than I do from that location.
I don't know if I was on the other side of town because I don't recall this noise this week. I know what you're talking about. I mean, I see the tire marks. I see them on the town bridge. I see them around the little triangle on Hill Road, Grassy Brook Road intersection. I see them in different areas, but I have not seen it. I have not seen anybody do it.
I owned a garage at one point, and in my garage, the one that I owned, that never happened. It's would have been obnoxious to do what was being done and no point in it. So I'll throw that in.
Well, what
Can
I,
find?
Bruce,
Yeah.
did you say something?
Yeah. Can I pine in for a bit here?
Mm-hmm.
Stan, I don't know if you guys were on the board when we discussed the noise ordinance, which we're not going down that path. It's just not going to work. And I had issues on Hill Road years ago with guns shooting off. Every once in a while, you got these type of issues, and by no stretch of the imagination am I minimizing what you're having to say, Stan, but it's real tough during day hours to stop people from doing that. My only suggestion is twofold. One, the one that you brought up, Stan, which is a one-on-one, please, can you stop it? That's the first approach. That doesn't work. And the other one is finding out what legally can be done. And like I said a second ago, I still have it in my inbox on my folder, information about creating a noise ordinance way back when. I think it was 2014. I think it was the first year I was on the board. And forget it. You're not going to get this town to go with a noise ordinance. So my suggestion is the one-on-one, or finding out legally from the sheriff's department what can be done. And I really think that's your only two that I can think of are your only two avenues.
Yeah, I hear you. And I was on the board the same time that very specific issue that I happened to refer to when I first started off tonight was involving you and another person across the way from you.
That's correct.
And you may not have known this, but there was a select board member who went to that person and spoke with them. I don't know if it ceased later that year by coincidence. You've noticed any change, but I hadn't heard you mention it again, and I hadn't heard any of your neighbors mention it again. So the solution I thought had been solved. And frankly, I wouldn't want to go to the police first. I just as soon, if anything, simply stop by the house and speak with the person when it happens again, just to kindly let him know that it is a disruption. It doesn't seem to be necessary, and not intimidate or threaten, but just let him know that it is an inconvenience to other people and it's not just my household.
Stan, do we know who it is? If we don't know who it is, we can't go one-on-one to talk to them.
As I say, I haven't, but I have no doubt, in light of the fact that it only happened again 2 days ago, it probably will happen again. And if the requirement is to find out who, I'd be happy to go down the street, get the property address and bring it up again in the future. I'm not looking to get anybody in trouble. I just,
Right.
I know there are other people that aren't saying anything that probably would, but as Bruce said, and we went down the road of questioning the police or the sheriff's department back when they were under contract. And Bruce is absolutely right. There's not much that they can do or they will do. So it becomes a matter of neighbors treating each other as neighbors. We live in the same town.
Yep.
Hopefully that in and of itself would make some sense. The fact that it starts in the first place lends one to think that the individual may not be leaning in that direction. But again, a kind, non-affrontive, very passive approach, I think, might at some point be necessary. And I'd be happy to make a note of the location when it happens again and bring it up.
All right, that sounds fair. And if it's all right, I can send out an email blast through Julie that, it's summer's here, windows are open. Please be conscientious of your neighbors. And
that's good.
That would be an excellent, also passive and
okay,
responsible professional way to handle it as well.
Yeah.
I would concur with that comment or that approach.
And this way they know who to contact if they wanted to share a complaint. It would be the select board. All right, excellent. Thank you for buffering that concern to from the resident. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Next is a request for minor road repair near the guardrail by the Rogers property on Hill Road. I don't know if everybody checked their email, but Stan did take a couple of pictures of that. Stan, you want to share what you found?
Yeah, during Green Up Day, when my wife and I were taking care of Sunny Lane and Hill Road up into Kirsch Road, when I got to the guardrail on the north side of Hill Road, just east of the James Rogers driveway, where the little stream goes underneath the road there, that culvert that was replaced probably 8-9 years ago. There is a, if you look at the picture that I sent there, and I'm sorry I got it to you today, there's where the white line is painted on the side of the road as to the line of travel. If you look at that photo, one of them, you'll see the deterioration has cut into that white line. When you go on the other side of the guardrail and look underneath, you can see that it's starting to hollow out into and beyond that white line. And my fear is that if it, and it's a small, relatively small area, probably 2 square feet right now, if someone were able to patch that somehow, it would save a long, more expensive fix down the road.
Stan?
Yeah.
I would suggest that we get Mark involved in this, because he's done some work over there. He even put a little bit of cold patch over and help supporting that driveway before Jimmy Rogers passed. We was very thankful that he did it. So I would suggest we get Mark involved in it, because that's the kind of stuff he does.
I agree. That's why I'm bringing it up, just so that it's on record, and I respect Mark's expertise and attendance, and I'm sure it's, you know, if you're going by every day quickly, I was walking and looking for trash, so I noticed it. But for the average person driving by and not even thinking about it, you wouldn't probably note it, but it is something that could be caught early. So I think I agree with you, Mark. I mean, Bruce, we ought to let Mark know about it.
I will. I'll send an email to Archie Clark and Mark Bills and attach the pictures and share the concern and ask for them to get back to us on what they think after they take a look. Is that okay with everybody?
Oh, yeah.
Sounds good. Okay.
Yep, that makes sense. I guess the only thing I'd suggest, Dot, is you might also want to just leave Mark a voicemail about it.
Yes, you're right. And voicemail.
Yes,
okay.
He'll hear that.
Oh, you know what? I'll leave a voicemail at both homes and say, check your email for pictures.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
I believe I did email it to an email address that I had for Mark. I'm not sure if it's his current email address. So
I don't text that too much.
That's a good idea, though, David. You're right. Voicemail. All right, that makes sense. Okay. Yes, I like to catch those things before they get to be big problems. All right, we'll move along to new business, the town shed. I got an email about seeing people going in and out, backing up pickup trucks, bringing wheelbarrows, and taking some road material, not necessarily just the sand, salted sand that's there for winter ice for residents. I did do the email blast, which you probably have seen. If not, I can send you a copy of it. And I did get one resident who apologized, but I got a second email that I did today that said, oh, it was just from the sand from the little phone booth area. So the person who observed the material going by said that there were several people, not just one group of people. So I went down there, the gate was wide open. I put streamers on it. I went to W&W and put a sign that says keep out employees only. I would like to get a combination lock for that, so that if Mark knew that there was a shipment coming in and he knew that there was something going to be delivered, or he and Archie would know the combination, that combination could be changed as needed, but it does need to be locked. I don't know if the type of lock was a key lock, and that was a problem with deliveries going in there, that somebody always had to have a key, but a combination lock would be easier, I would think. And I think going forward, when we do get a new salt sand shed in there, we might want to think about fencing at least the street side of it in a different format. It's just something that it's going to happen, or just think about the security that area deserves. But I think we remedied the situation right now. We're keeping an eye out, and hopefully it won't happen again. So, anybody
be
else have
great.
any concerns about that?
No.
Okay, the next item, budget for 2020, 2021, end of year discussion. Pretty much in the past week, I've talked to Judy and Samara a couple times, and Mike Masters and Guy, and there are some editing of the of our accounting materials for last year that is still being fixed when things were put into wrong columns. Mike has been adding, Mike and Samara have been working at changing all of that back to where it should be. In June, we need to pass the tax rate, and either the 2nd or the 16th. Before then, I'm going to spend a little bit more time with Mike and trying to learn the budget and point out some questionable ways in which it's organized. And on the 16th, the treasurers will do an end of year summary report on Zoom under scheduled members of the public. I do have to ask Dave this, and I think it's a good idea. When I was reviewing over the minutes, you had mentioned that we really should be getting monthly financials. And so you're not just talking about warrants, you mean the monthly summaries of all accounts?
Yeah,
fun.
I mean, well, it's just that in the past, and granted, it's been a while since this has happened, but certainly back, Mara was treasurer before she stepped down the first time. We used to get, if not monthly financial statements, we would get financial statements every couple of months.
Correct.
Eventually, I think we would all hope, and I'm sure Mike would hope as well, that things can be stable enough that they can get back to doing that, so that we can, because to your point, right now, it's great that they're going to do that in June, we're going to see where things are as we end the fiscal year. But, if we are way over in some accounts, we're not going to know that until it's at the end of the fiscal year. So there won't really be anything we'll be able to do about it to curb collectively the town's behavior to keep that from happening. Like I say, this is the situation. It's in a better situation. I genuinely believe it's in a better, more stable situation now than it has been in a couple of years. But that isn't to say we shouldn't aspire for it to be even better so that we can be more proactive at some point. That's all.
I'm going to be requesting of our treasurer, Mike Masters, to give us full accounting email attachments for June, for May and June going into this end of the year. So we'll have everything in front of us so that on the 16th, you'll be able to be more specific and say, well, what about this item? What about that item or line? And I know in some cases, we may want to break down how money shows up in a budget report a little differently to make it easier to understand. So I've been looking at it, and everybody's very helpful, but it is a little confusing to me. So I think it probably might be confusing to some other people as well. So we'll have to get a little bit more of a handle on it. Guy, did you want to say something, or was that somebody? Bruce?
No, I'm good.
I put my glasses back on. I don't know if that was it or not.
Oh, all right. I thought I saw. Okay.
Can I just add one more thing about that, Dot, just that we'll have in our minds when we go into that discussion. I think one of the things that I think is very important, and I believe Samara would say this if she were here, that what's very important is that whatever we end up requesting or demanding, not really demanding, but expecting from the treasurers as far as reporting is concerned, it's important that it be both something that gives us the information that we think we need, but it also needs to be something that the people we have doing the roles of treasurer and assistant treasurer are comfortable and capable of producing, and that they understand. Because I think sometimes in the past, we've either had a situation where the treasurer understood everything in a way that the select board didn't understand at all, or possibly vice versa, where the select board really grasped all of the budget items, but the treasurer had no real understanding about it. Moving forward, it would be very good, if at all possible, if both groups had more of a symbiotic relationship, because it will help make it more stable into the future than it has been over the last few years. That's all.
No, good point. Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not an accountant anyway, but when I can look at the paperwork, say, oh, the cemetery budget for the old cemeteries, I mean, it's being charged to town maintenance. It should be coming out of here. So these are things that each of us will see at some point, but everyone is very supportive and willing to, and are very happy that we're looking at the paperwork. They're looking at the financial numbers because, it is important. I was concerned about the highway fund specifically because it looked like we were going to be $50,000 over, but there was some money that was rolled over from previous years that I didn't see. So there's a learning curve in how to interpret these. So on the 16th, we should have a full presentation, if not on the 2nd. But those are also the days that we won't be assigning the tax rate going forward for 2021, 2022. Okay. Any questions about that? All right. Now we'll move on to old business, the recycling bin ownership paperwork, which I have here, which thanks Guy resent it to me. At the last meeting, we talked about the original memorandum of agreement from 2017, and then we received a termination of the memorandum of understanding in March of 2021 for the loan of the recycling bins. And right now I have in front of me a form for bill of sale of those recycling bins to the town of Brookline. So I suppose I'm going to make a motion. I'll ask for a second and then we can discuss it. So I'm going to make a motion that you authorize me to sign the bill of sale from the Wyndham Solid Waste Management District so that the Brookline will become the owners of the recycling containers. Can I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, seconded by David. Next, we'll have a discussion. Anyone would like to make to have an opinion or a statement they'd like to make about this? Pretty straightforward. Is it actually $1 or is it just, I don't know. No, where is it?
Well, I think it's a gesture that in order for there to be a bill of sale, there has to be some kind of amount.
Yes.
They're essentially giving them to us, but it's done in a form that makes it
Yes.
somewhat legally
Okay,
consistent.
I see it right here. Yep.
All
right. Any other discussion?
No, it's from a statutory consideration. If there isn't some value exchange, it may not be considered a valid agreement. So basically saying the same thing David said.
Okay. All right. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor of authorizing me to sign the bill of sale for ownership of the recycling containers signify by saying aye.
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 Any abstentions? Nays? Hearing none. Thank you. You authorized me unanimously to sign the bill of sale, and I will get that done by tomorrow. Okay, very good. All right, moving on,
Dot,
old
Dot,
business. Yes,
Just one last question. Did you finalize where the bins would be stored? Are they going to be stored at Wyndham, at Brattleboro Salvage, or did you come to a conclusion with that?
no.
Nothing's going to change about the bins where they live. I mean, they're under the control of Triple T now. They will continue to be under the control of Triple T. Just now, technically, we will own them instead of the Wyndham Solid Waste Management District owning them. But nothing else will change.
Oh, let me ask a question before we move on. Point here. We I'll have Mike Masters contact our insurance agent. I know it's 8 cents per $100 of value. What shall we ask? What is the value that we should insure them for? What do we do about that? Anybody? Any insurance gurus here?
I would have suspected in order to get that rate of 0.08 cents per 100, they must have used a value in order to derive that.
That was our insurance companies gave us that rate for.
I'm assuming that that was based on a value that they need to insure. Otherwise, they wouldn't have, unless they just, is it a real solid rate? I mean, is it something?
No, I asked the treasurer to find out how much it would cost to insure the town for these on the property. And they said it's 8 cents per $100 of value. What is the value of these?
Well, no one knows really what the value is, but I think what we've batted around is let's just super exaggerate and say that the value of them was $1,000 per container, which I can almost guarantee you it isn't, because they have nothing more than probably scrap metal value to them. And there's holes in them and stuff. I mean, in reality, they're probably only worth a couple of $100 each, maybe. But we don't know. The thing is that unfortunately, there's no effective way for anyone without us paying someone to go find them and value them to do that. So given that it's 8 cents per $100, I propose that we value each of them at $1,000. So the total value of that is $3,000, and whatever that is per 100 times 8 cents.
So it'd be like $30.
I mean, if the insurance company doesn't care or doesn't want to, if they don't expect us to be getting any more assessment of it than guessing at a value, then that should be fine.
Okay. All right. I'll follow up on that as well then. Good.
Because effectively, the value to them as far as money is concerned is insignificant to us. What matters, and what Mike had clarified with them, is that we are already covered for liability of owning those, which is really where the town's exposure could be. Like I say, if one of those bins burns tomorrow, the bin is gone, and we're not gonna, there's not going to be anything to it, and we're going to not get virtually anything for it regardless. We're not, I do not believe that our insurance, I didn't talk to the insurance people, but I can't fathom that for 8 cents per 100 that we would be able to get replacement value of anything. So it's not, I don't think that's relevant probably.
Okay, perfect. Well, Dan, you want to say something?
At $1,000 each, it comes out to $1.60 in premiums.
Exactly.
We can afford that then.
I just thought, we're not paying 8 cents per 100 on our buildings probably. So I'm just wondering where that 8 cents came from if they had a dollar amount,
Right. Bruce, did you want to say something?
So the bottom line is that the town will own the bins. The bins will live at Brattleboro Salvage, and they will be responsible for recycling, bringing them back and forth to us as needed.
Correct.
I'm not sure that's totally accurate. I think the overall process is as you've described it, but I think they're going to remain where they are currently in Brookline.
Oh,
south
no,
of
there's
the-
3 of them.
There's 3 of them? Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so.
Right,
that's
and
$2.20.
let's remember, like we discussed before, Triple T, as part of their process, cycles bins that both technically are now owned by us, as well as bins that are technically owned by other towns. They
Yes.
don't only give us the bins that were originally loaned to us as part of their process.
Right.
So at any point in time, a bin that might be here in our town may not be one of the 3 bins that
Right.
we were loaned and will now own. But that's okay. That's how they work their process, and there's no reason to change that for this purpose.
All right. Bruce, did you want to say something, or we can move on, or?
Yeah, I'll make it real quick. I think that one thing you have to keep in mind, we have $1,000 deductible. I believe $1,000 deductible on our insurance. So if we're thinking about any protection, we're not going to get any. We're paying for the insurance. We're probably not going to get anything out of it.
Okay,
That's all I have to say.
that's a
all I have
good
to
point. Good point. Okay, well, thank you. With that, we'll follow through, sign that, and get that off. Next, under old business, DV Fiber, continued discussion on whether Brookline should join the Deerfield Valley Communications Union District for broadband at this time. Stan, did you want to pick up from that? I know we had a little bit more time to review the paperwork that you put together earlier in the month.
Yeah, I think Peter's minutes pretty much reflect where I was coming on that in terms of, although it's a very worthwhile project for those towns those 5 or 6 towns that don't have, but in Marlboro's case, 1 person that has Comcast and the rest of the town does not, the 3,707 people that don't have it. When we're looking at possibly 4 at a minimum and 26 at a max, with no indication as to how reliable either of those numbers is, but the number that don't have it is in between, which those numbers I did not have when I even brought up the subject. I probably should have got that information first, but I didn't want to spend time unless the select board was interested in pursuing it potentially. So it would seem on the surface that even though we're not in any way, manner, shape, or form going to have to tax anyone or take or assume or be liable for any failure on the part of the communication district, I'm not sure that we are a true candidate for participation in the program. A lot of the summary stuff that I sent you last time, I think has the potential to answer many of your questions. I know that we were exposed to comments that indicated that, by us joining, we may be able to help other towns by adding to the mass of towns that are participating. But, when I look at even high percentages like Brattleboro, when you look at their 12,000 plus population, even though they have a significant number of people, a high percentage, it's 87% or 91% or something like that. That still means, from their town, they're going to have in excess of 1,000 people that don't have broadband. And I think Patrick Moreland indicated to Stephen John in a conversation I had with Stephen before the last meeting that he felt they were going to be lucky if they got 799 of those people broadband through this program. But their numbers make sense. They have a large number of people, period. And so for us, I'm not sure from a practical point, and I sensed from day one that David was pretty cued into that fact, but I didn't have any numbers, and I'm not sure any of us really did. But I think from my vantage point, my personal vantage point, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, assuming that I've got the answer to them, and simply express my own summary feelings that I don't think we need to participate in the program.
Okay.
All right. Anybody, should we So is there a motion to drop? We don't
Can I,
have to
can I just speak to it for a second?
drop.
Now that I've had a chance to review everything. So, well, I'll start by saying I will echo what Stan is saying, that I did not originally think that this would necessarily make sense for our town, or that there would be a great need for our town. And what the research that they've done seems to have borne that out. However, I also, at the time that this began, didn't think there'd ever be any money or funding for this, whereas now clearly there will be. So I am of the opinion, after reading through the stuff, that if we have the ability to participate in this, and if we have someone who is willing to be a representative to it, even though we may only have, let's say, worse, the best case scenario, I guess, that there are only 4 houses in town that don't have access to broadband, that's 4 houses too many. And like we discussed last time, it would be to the advantage of our town if there were a presence of a fiber optic company in the region or the area or in our town offering a service. It would offer more competitive opportunity in that field, which would be beneficial to consumers. So I actually have changed my mind about the concept, given the specifics of how things are playing out with federal funding and state funding. I think if we, again, I am, unfortunately, due to time constraints, I can't participate in this. But if we have someone, maybe or maybe not Stan, who's willing to be a representative on it, I think we should participate in it. So that's my 2 cents for the moment.
Dot, you're muted.
Stan and then Guy.
Yeah, I was, as David and probably others of you, I hope I'm not assuming too much, was looking at this in terms of affordability. And that is why I may not have written this. It may not have been in any of your paperwork that I had sent to you. But I had asked Steve John if he had any idea of what the cost of the service would be. Because when I initially started looking, and I did email certain people in town and said, would you be interested? Do you have it? And they said, yeah, we've got it, but we'd be interested in something cheaper. Stephen referenced another firm up north in the northwestern part of the state that is a communication district, and they have did some calculations, and their standard anticipated fee for service, once this is established, is not defined yet, but the minimum was going to be $60 and the maximum $100. And my fee for it right now is in the 60s. So other than one being fiber and one being cable, if it's looked at from an affordability perspective, I didn't get the sense there's a distinct advantage to doing it. Next issue is, as I promised, and I said, if the town is interested in doing it, I would be happy to represent the town depending upon what the board chose to do. I wanted to be fair about it. I will say this, when I attended the meeting, the one meeting that I did, you are expected as a town member to participate in one of several different committees. There's not a free ride, and it's a lot of time. But that having been said, if others feel it's worth it, I'll be happy to keep my promise. You're muted again, Dot.
I'm trying to keep you from hearing my dog. Guy, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I would just like to interject. Comcast, when they took in our town and covered our town entirely back, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 years ago, has a program for underprivileged, low-income families. The fee is $39 for internet, They supply computers and so on and so forth. It's just a matter of people actually asking for it. So I feel that our town especially is exceptionally covered by the opportunity to have internet. So I'm not so sure that what you folks are looking for is a good fit for our town at this point. I think anyone in the town of Brookline has the opportunity to have internet one way or the other, whether it be Dish, whether it be DirecTV or Comcast. And there is a low-income program available through Comcast that people just need to ask for.
Okay.
I wonder if they know about it. But David?
So yeah, I mean, just not to beat a dead horse, but a couple things. One is that, if I had the option, to talk about cost comparisons, it isn't, though I like Comcast, I'm happy to have them as a provider, whatever. If they offer low cost for people who need them, that's fantastic. But I, as a consumer, would like to have more options. I genuinely believe if there were more broadband service providers in our town, the costs would not go up as rapidly. I think the free market almost everywhere shows that to be the case. If I had the option of having fiber internet or Comcast cable internet at the same price, or even, quite frankly, a slightly higher price for fiber optic, I would take fiber optic 10 times out of 10 times. It is a superior form of broadband in many ways that I won't bore you with. But it would provide more options and better options for some people. And as all of the description and all of the research that Stan seemed to do, and Mr. John backed up, is that other than the time commitment of someone, which I'm not saying isn't significant, but there is no cost at the moment and no obligation for a cost to our town to lend our voice to this and potentially have it be something which we could see realized here down the road. So I think it's kind of a no-lose situation, other than the time commitment of someone. If we can have someone who'll do it.
Very well said. Bruce, do you want to say anything?
Oh boy, I'm really on the fence with this. I got a question for Dave though. Dave, you're telling me that Comcast is totally just cable, no fiber optic.
Right. It's
okay.
It is cable internet.
It's cable internet. There's no fiber optic involved,
which
at
is
all.
a great product, but has limitations. Some of which Comcast and tape companies place on their own. Which, what I will say is, if there were fiber optic competitors in the market, they also might free up more possibilities for people of their own service. But anyway, yes, it's cable internet.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll tell you, I was against it 2 minutes ago until I heard Dave's argument. So now I'm not so sure. I think I'm more inclined to what Dave has to say. Leave it open. If Stan or somebody wants to be a representative and it's no cost to our town, I don't see where that would hurt. But I think we have to have a commitment from somebody that will do it before we vote on it.
Okay.
It won't be me.
I'm taking a look at a fact sheet that the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds and for Vermont, $350 billion for state and local, and of course communications and broadband and access is part of that plan.
Yes.
I don't want to put somebody to let's see. All right, Gwen, what do you think? Then I'll come back.
And then Frida goes after that.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Well,
Gwen.
I don't think it's a problem if there's no cost, but It's got to be
Time.
monitored, and there's not too many of us that have time to do that.
Yeah.
I'm
that-
computer illiterate, so I'm no help whatsoever.
Yeah, that's my concern, Stan, is that the amount of time, do we want to start with it, and then if it doesn't seem to be, I'm not sure I'm not sure. I mean, I think having fiber optics, I've had it when I was in New Jersey. I don't know, for the amount of internet I use, my cable is just fine. But there are people who are working from home and who could use this faster fiber optics. So where are we at? Should we ask to call the question to see if we get a vote on this?
I think Stan wants to say something else. Before he
Oh,
does,
okay.
let me just say, can I just chime in? I'm just going to add, and before Stan says, I cannot commit to being the representative on this. However, I would say, Stan, if you are willing to start doing it, I am willing to help you. And whatever, if there are meetings you can't be a part of, I will try my very best to deputize for you. And I would like to try to help make it possible without it all falling on you. I'll try to do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Stan?
I have three things to offer. One is that if it's something that you wish to pursue, not only is there a primary representative from the town that's asked for, they also want an alternate. So there's a need for two people to be designated anyway. Secondly, there's two programs through the state. If the individual does not have cable, but since that's what it's probably going to come off of in our town, there is a process whereby an individual can get a credit. I believe it is either $2,000 or $2,500 to be connected from an existing line to their house without involving a townwide issue. That's number two. Number three is I would like to see perhaps something be presented by the Lavorgnas asking the town to express their feelings about this option. Do they wish to pursue fiber? Are they happy with cable? And before five of us assume the responsibility for the entire town. I think that would give me a greater sense of comfort in knowing whether I'm doing something that people are interested in as opposed to not knowing. And that's my last comment.
David?
Well, I guess I would say that though I understand Stan's question, we had hundreds of people, well, maybe not hundreds of people, almost 100 people in this town participate in a survey about this project at the very beginning of it. I feel like we're elected to do things that are in support of the town. I don't feel this is something we need to be asking townspeople whether it's important to them or not, because quite frankly, let's say your numbers are correct. If we have 300 households in our town and 4 of them don't have broadband, when 296 of the households tell us that it's not important to them, does that mean we don't do it? Yeah. I mean, I already know for the majority of people in this town, this probably isn't a big issue, but I don't think that matters given what we're talking about. I think we should do it. And I also, I worry about where we draw the line between making decisions based on the support of the people who've elected us to make those decisions, and how often we have to ask the townspeople if they want it.
Yes.
And the third thing I'll say
Boy.
is we're going to send out an email communication to people asking them
No.
for their opinion
No.
about internet access. So right there, I think a challenging premise for the people who don't have the internet access to respond to it. So that's all.
I could pick things that would be as equally important in theory and process. I do think that we don't operate by soliciting votes or citizens' feelings on most of what we do. But this is,
Right.
in my book, another bar high.
How is it then when it involves no tax burden to the town? It involves, like I say, it involves nothing, quite frankly, as near as I can tell from the research you've done. It involves nothing other than your time and my time. And that's understandable. And if you don't want to commit your time necessarily unless some threshold of people in the town, it's important to them, then that's fine. That's fine. I don't want it to work that way. So quite frankly, if that's the position, then I would be willing to take over and be the representative for it. If that's what it hinges on for you, because I have a problem with it.
Okay, I will be his assistant, but I guess I'd really, looking at other things I'm involved with, I really should say I don't have the time, but I was willing to keep my promise in terms of doing it. But I'm looking at reasons that are being presented. I understand, but I don't, in my priority that there's a differing, and I will be an alternate, but I will not be the prime. So in that
Okay,
case,
I think Gwen wanted to say something, and then Bruce. Gwen?
I think David had a point. They elected us to make decisions for the town on things that we think are appropriate. And I think the select board as a whole, that's what we're supposed to do.
Okay.
And to Gwen's point and to Stan's point before, I mean, if the majority of the people on the board don't think that this makes sense to spend time doing, then that's fine. Then we should vote on it and decide what that's going to be. But now, I don't know, if we think we need to get more input from the town before we decide that, then that's fine also. I mean, I guess we could look to do that and table it and vote on it at another point, I guess.
All right, I'm going to take a question from Bruce, and then I'm going to call the question, and we will do a final discussion.
I don't have a question. I just had a statement.
Okay.
I agree with Gwen and David, except for the last statements you made, Dave. But I agree. We should call the question now. We've hashed it out plenty. Everybody's got an opinion. Let's vote on it.
Okay. All right. I'm going to make a motion to sign the resolution appointing David Jones as a representative and Stan Noga as an alternate to the DV Fiber Deerfield, that's the whole name of it, union. Hold on, let me read it properly.
Move, Frida.
Deerfield Valley Communications Union District for broadband at this time. We'll do a roll call vote. Yay to join, nay not to join, or abstain. We'll start with
Sorry,
David.
did we have a second to the motion?
Oh,
in the
no.
first
I need a
place?
second. May I have a second for that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Seconded the motion. Thank you. All right.
And I'm going to ask a question. I'm trying to search
Discussion.
online to find do we know what their meeting schedule is?
it's on their website. It's quarterly, and they try to meet once a month. So it's 12 meetings plus 4 more, 16 meetings a year. And you're expected to be involved with committees like finance, the reports, the soliciting of bids, and there's 2 other committees.
Any other questions or discussion before the vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote to approve of the resolution appointing David Jones as the representative and Stan Noga as the alternate to the Deerfield Valley Communications Union District. David, yay or nay or abstain?
Yay.
Okay, David, yes. We'll go, Gwen, you're next on my picture board here.
Yes, yes,
Okay. Stan, you're next on my picture board here.
Yay.
Okay.
Interesting.
Bruce?
No, I don't
No.
think it's worth it.
Right. And I also would vote no for the reasons I think people are pretty good with the status quo. But the yeas have it. The vote is 3 yes, 2 no's, and we will be joining the DV Fiber Communications Union District, and the paperwork I have here in front of me. I will fill it out and send it in. Thank you for your consideration on this project. It does sound important, and I understand the commitment is going to be there. And if you find that the commitment is too much, please speak up. Okay?
You can withdraw at any time, by the way. So you may have saw that in the paperwork.
Okay.
Right. Exactly.
Right. All right. All right. Excellent. Okay, now we should move on to item 3, the Wi-Fi hotspot at Town Hall donated by Project Connect. I gave you the hot links to their frequently asked questions, photos, flyers, media link. I did say that our application was approved. I did speak to the project coordinator, Dustin Lee, and they were all of a sudden yesterday we had a phone call saying, oh, we're ready to install. So we put them off. We said, well, the select board had some questions about this, and it was back on our agenda for today. If you have, has everybody seen the email that we got from Two Wire Guys from Dan?
The one that came today?
It came today.
Yeah. Can I make a suggestion,
All right.
please?
Yes, go ahead, Bruce.
If you all send out emails in the middle of the afternoon on the day of the select board meeting, Bruce isn't going to get to read them. That's just the way it's going to be. I'm sorry to put it that way, but I'm outside working. I come in at 5:45 or 6:15 or 5:30 getting ready to go to a select board meeting, and I got a ton of emails to read. So I don't mean this in a nasty way, but if anybody wants anything read by a meeting, it's got to be the day before. So at least I have overnight to look at it.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
I hear you.
I'll echo that from Bruce. That I mean, I'm just reading most of these things right now.
Right. I don't have time to think about this. And Stan, appreciate all the work you did. We'll get into that shortly about the pest stuff, but there was a ton of stuff there. And I opened up my email at quarter to 5. You guys sent it at 3, I think, or 3:15. I was outside.
Yeah, I realized that, and I realized I shouldn't be sending it. I should wait to the next meeting because I've got my own personal schedule, and I always apologize.
Sure.
I feel terrible about it, but at least you have it. If you get to read it,
Yeah,
fine.
I appreciate that.
You can put it off to another meeting.
Samara used to send the financial reports like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a select board. I was like, "What do you?
Right.
Thank you."
Right. All right. Well,
Anyway, I made my point.
yes, I did. We did get a response. There was a concern about a couple of questions that we had to answer. One of the things, David, you had brought up was about the signal strength or the amount of bandwidth that it would take. And I spoke to Dustin Lee, and he said that it was they have a controller on it that restricts it to what was it, 5 megabytes per second download and 25 megabytes per second upload.
I'm sure it's the opposite.
Oh, okay, the opposite. I don't have it in front of me. I'm like, I got 25 and 5. And
Right, which might be nearly the capacity of our service at the town office, just so you know.
I'm sorry.
I'm not sure that I think that's roughly the capacity of our service. At the
Comcast is about
town office,
25 to
possibly.
50 megabytes per second, but
Right, and you're saying that they're capping, that their thing caps at 25 megs download, which I think is roughly what we have for service there.
okay. All right. So are we looking at, so we obviously I called them up yesterday and I said, no, we're not ready. The select board has to vote on this. And then they said, okay, well, we're going to be going up to Maine. We'll be back down in a week or two. We can come back at that time. I can contact the district person at any time. Are we saying that we haven't read this and we need another week, Bruce, you didn't read through it, so.
I didn't.
How do we want to address this?
Dot, does this
Yes,
mean we're
Gwen.
going to vote on it? Right now, it's not approved. We're going to read it and get a little more information, because I was under the understanding that it doesn't affect the town, but now I'm getting the impression that it's going to. So if that's the case, I want to change my vote to a nay.
What are you saying it affects the town? In what way? Gwen?
Roll call.
Sorry, I think she's talking about the previous matter.
Wait, Gwen,
I'm sorry, never mind.
Gwen, what are you trying to say?
I thought you were still talking about the internet.
I'm looking at the Wi-Fi hotspot. The Wi-Fi hotspot for people in the parking lot at Town Hall, that they can come into the parking lot and you have a password-free access to Wi-Fi so that students can Zoom with the teacher or do webinars or use some of the bandwidth from Comcast cable. It would put us on a statewide list of Wi-Fi, similar to what the library has in Newfane. I mean, we've approved. They will install it, but if we don't want it installed, I just need to let them know. So, shall we go through and see how we feel? Should we?
Can I just ask a quick, point of clarification? Did we actually vote to do this?
No.
No. Okay,
No.
sorry. I kind of couldn't quite remember whether we had in one of the discussions of the last few weeks. Okay, all right, thanks.
No, we needed a little bit more information from them, and the funny thing is that I did speak to the project coordinator, and he on like Friday, and on Tuesday we got a phone call that they'll come and install at 10:15, and we're like, whoa, it was very quick. So they were just moving through very rapidly, and so I said, no, we're not ready yet. We haven't voted. So, all right, Guy Tanza, I see a hand waving.
yeah, I just want to let people know that in regards to getting emails at the last minute, sometimes they're unavoidable for the simple reason that we don't get information, like in regard to this particular project. I was in touch with Dan Meal and also in touch with Dustin from the project coordinator, and all these things come down at the last minute. As I said to Dot, I got a phone call Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock that they were going to come and install this. And I hadn't even had a conversation with Dan Meal to see how it might impact the town. So unfortunately, emails are a quick way to inform people. And, sometimes they are last minute things, and it's something that we can't really control too much. But anyway, getting back to this project, I think Dan Meal, I respect Dan Meal and Two Wired Guys. They've been with us for the 10 years I've been there, and he's an incredibly intelligent guy, and he raised some valid issues. And I think it's something that maybe you need to review before you come to a vote. So you don't have to do anything right now, but you can review what Dan Meal has suggested, and then maybe at the next meeting, decide whether you, in fact, you want to do that.
I agree.
Okay. I do think the point that Dan made is when the pandemic comes to an end and public places like libraries reopen, we might reconsider the necessity of providing this type of service to the public, but it is a service to the people of Brookline. They don't have to go to the Newfane Library. I guess Dan realizes we don't have a library here, but all right.
And as I said, the town does have public Wi-Fi. A number of people use our parking lot already. They know what the password is, so I'm not overly concerned that we're missing any opportunities.
Okay. I'm going to make a motion that this item be tabled to the next meeting, at which time we will have been able to review it and then vote on whether we're going to follow. I'll contact the company and tell them that that's where we're standing. And if we're going to miss the opportunity, then I guess we're going to miss the opportunity. But we'll put this on the agenda for June 2nd.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of tabling this motion till June 2nd, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any abstained or any nays? Any abstentions? All right, motion tabled to June 2nd. All right, very good. So we're moving down to, we're pretty good on time. Summary update reports, town clerk, Mr. Tanza.
I'd like to give the floor to Stan, who had his hand up there for a second.
Oh, Stan, I'm sorry.
No problem, Guy. I wish to thank you for your understanding and the reality of what you just said, that nothing and everything is not under each person's control. We all try to do the best we can, and hopefully we can all treat each other positively as you did. Thank you.
Okay. Guy?
In regards to what's going on in town, our dog licensing are trickling in. I think we're up to about 75. Again, there hasn't been a great deal of pressure put on the residents of Brookline, but they're all aware that once this emergency declaration has been undeclared, I think we'll be able to get back to some sort of normalcy. As far as records, people coming in to look for records, we still have a large amount of people coming in, which is good because the town gets paid $15 a dollar a page, rather, excuse me, to look at these pages, and we also get $15 a page to record them. So consequently, our recordings have been on the increase. As far as everything else, I think people have been understanding. Gwen and I have both been, as far as not wearing a mask or wearing a mask, it's a call shot, and basically, I think we're both comfortable. Both of us have had our vaccinations, and we're slowly but surely ebbing back toward normalcy. One last thing about delinquent taxes. I spoke with Mike at length this morning, and the tax date was May 18th. And I asked him before he calculated interest, before he submitted a delinquent tax report to me as a delinquent tax report collector, I thought it would be advantageous, and I think it would be nice for the town to give another 10 days for these tax bills to trickle in before we actually penalize them the 8%. And he agreed. And I think he sent a letter out to the, I don't know how many people that are still in arrears, to pay up and, give the opportunity to pay up by the 28th of May. At that point, we will instill the 8% penalty, and I will do the delinquent tax collecting as necessary. I think in these times, I think our town has been very, very accommodating, and it just reflects about who we are as Brookline.
All right. Yes, I saw Michael. He's going to be sending out that letter. That's good. Anything else, Guy? You're good.
No, that's pretty much it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. For my report, basically, I had one animal control officer project to do with a resident dog that was picked up and by a somebody coming through town thinking the dog was lost. It wasn't. We were able to return the dog to the owner, and there was no fines or anything assessed for the dog. It was vaccinated and will be registered. Town Shed Gate. Mark, you came in a little bit late. We were talking about the gate, and I don't know if you've seen it. Can you hear me, Mark?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. The gate, I put those streamers on and keep out employees only sign there. I didn't have a lock. I would like to see a combination, or a lock that's not required a key, and we really should keep the key, keep that area more secure. And when we do get a new shed in there, we might want to look at other security measures, fencing and so on and so forth in the future. But that was that, and the trash that was on going towards Athen Road, that was cleaned up, and the dog and the noise ordinance, everything else seems to have been falling in place, and people are starting to enjoy the summer weather here. Okay, so that's all I had to say with this. Mark, when we get down to you, we'll refresh. We found some road damage. We'll bring it to your attention shortly.
Okay.
In a few minutes. So we're going to go let Bruce do his building commissioner report, and then you, and then we'll be all done pretty much. Okay.
Okay.
All right, Bruce, you want to tell us about the you and Stan, or tell us about the pest removal projects?
I'm going to go. I will get into that, but I'm going to just say a few other things and then we'll get right into that. First of all, I'm looking forward to the next meeting of us being a little bit more tight, well, a little bit more focused on the round schoolhouse and making sure that we get contractors and spend that $5,000. That being said, I'm also considering going to a church committee meeting next month, if it's not on a select board night, to discuss what their expectations are going forward, their ideas, and considering asking them to do a 5-year plan and organize it. I won't go into that either. That's just general. Okay. Now, I'll also get into the school for a second. It's not too much. Oh, I had a question for Guy. Guy, you said Scott Bobet needs to re-up. Which forms? Do you remember which they are? Because I think it's in my email, but I haven't looked at it.
Yeah, basically it's the insurance saying that he has workman's compensation, and it's a pretty standard procedure, but we need to have that. Our insurance carrier requires that so that they're covered in the event they get hurt on the job. Okay.
Between that and if I'll send him a message, he'll understand it. I can do that. And also, I need to contact Nancy Burke. I had a good conversation with Stan about this. I've had a conversation with Guy about this, and I think we're all in agreement that we're not too awful happy that she's the way she's doing her scheduling. So I've told Stan, when I get a minute here, I'm going to call her directly and have a conversation with her to see if we can, rather than her doing it 1 month apart, do it every 3 months for the kids' good, to keep the quality of the water observed. And since we're paying for it, I think we have a right to ask that. So I'm going to do that.
If I can interrupt you there, I thought we had
You sure can.
The last meeting we had this discussion, and we decided not to approach her on that topic because.
Yeah, you did actually. Now now you're refreshing my memory. Do you want me to change and not do it? Stan, if you want to pipe in, go for it. We had a pretty lengthy discussion about it without all you involved, but I don't know, Dot. Let's just talk about that for a second, and you all tell me what you want me to do.
All right. I mean, personally, I would think that it should be spread out in a way in which gives us a real picture of the health of the water in that school system, and having something done week 1 and then just because it's in a different quarter the following week is not a real good picture.
Yes.
But I understand there was a concern about,
Yes, she's doing that. She's not doing it in an organized manner. I'm not going to approach it to her like that. I'm just going to tell her, look, Nancy, having it 2 weeks apart or a month apart isn't really benefiting us. I know you're following state regulations, fitting it in the quarter, but
Right.
My major concern, like Stan was saying to me, not to speak for Sam, but I think I can in this respect, that the major concern is the quality of the water for the kids. And if we're not getting the inspections, like Stan said to me on the phone, and again, you can interrupt me, Stan, if I'm wrong. I think she can go 5 months apart. I don't know if she can do that. Maybe beginning of one quarter. That's 2, 3. Yeah, she could literally go almost 5 months between tests. And I don't think we want to pay our $95 for that. I think we're entitled to have it. And it doesn't have to be right every quarter, right on the first week of the month or what. She just has to tighten it up a little bit, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying that's not what we agreed upon at the last meeting.
Okay. So does anybody want to pine in and bitch at me?
All right, Stan?
Yeah, I looking at our all-encompassing power here, it seems to me a very weak position should something happen with water at the school after all we've spent and all the time that Bruce has spent on it, that to explain to a parent whose child is there that we have allowed potentially up to 5.5 months to check the quality of the water. I don't know the school system that you were in, Dot, but I don't know if that's a strong position to be put in when we have an alternative choice to simply ask politely that it try to be done, every quarter around or about the same week if possible, so that we as a group can indicate that we've done the maximum that we can to provide the children in that building and the tenants with potable, safe water. And if it's an unapproachable topic, because we've talked about it in the past, so be it. If it's a situation that we can bring up and revisit, I think what Bruce is saying is, in our discussion Saturday morning, is that, when we thought about it, and the apparent one concern being that, well, we might get our fees upped. And it is of concern to me that, that's important, but I can't imagine she's going to increase it if she even is the nature to do that, a significant sum of money. And when we're paying somebody $100 to come and turn the water faucet on between one building and the other, that almost says to me the money is not really that important. It is important, but not important. Depends on what topic we're talking about. So I just assume that if we can revisit the issue, and that's my input on it, period.
Okay. All right. I don't think we need a vote on this. We can get a consensus.
Can I just weigh in for a second? I thought we were going to weigh in. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Stan that I think it's fine for us to ask her to change, to just try to spread things out more so that there's a more accurate capture of time and that less time goes by. I will just say, let's have in the back of our minds, of course, that we do not pay her. We did not hire her and pay her to do this through anyone on the board's interest in checking the water at that facility. We did it because the state required us to do it. So we hired her to meet the state's requirements. And over the years, and she's been doing this prior to my involvement in the board, I don't think we ever had any concerns about what her schedule was. Maybe it used to be different and she's changed it now, or maybe we've just noticed it. I'm not sure. But yeah, I think it's a good idea for us to ask her politely to try to keep it more consistent so that the results reflect a more realistic timing of capturing the water. That seems reasonable to me.
Okay, Gwen?
I agree with David. Just ask her nicely to have it a little more stable.
Okay.
Can I just interject something? I just want to refresh your memory that at one time we had water testing done every month. And until we met a certain criteria, that showed that there were no aggravations or anything else, then it was pushed to every quarter. And as far as collecting the water and just turning a tap, with due respect to Stan, there's a little more that's involved in that. She has to take a very clean sample, has to submit it to a lab. It has to be submitted to testing and so forth. So it is a long drawn out thing, and it's a very important thing for the students or the population there at the school board. I'm sorry, at the daycare center.
Dot,
Yes, sir.
and to respond to what Guy said initially about the testing every month, that was due to a failed system
Right.
because we were failing our tests.
But
So
we are-
that's why we're quarterly now. God bless it is quarterly instead of monthly.
Right. Bruce, I think what the select board said is, as a building commissioner, we're going to let you contact Nancy and suggest that she look at her scheduling and make it a more accurate picture of the health of the water
Okay.
for the care center.
I have a good relationship with her, Dot, so it shouldn't be much of a problem from my end. I don't know what she's going to say, but
Right.
I do have a good relationship with her. She was
Right.
I think I said last time, she was quite helpful when I was trying to figure out what to do about the water, the water treatment, back in February, early March. We have a good rapport,
Okay,
and I've
good.
met with her last summer, so I'll call her.
All right. I don't think there's a need for a vote.
Okay.
All right, continue on. You can finish up. What else?
Okay, I'll move on. Okay, let me see. Where was I here? Bear with me a second. I'm a little backed up at home, so I made a. Well, I'll get into that in a minute about a commitment I made to Mark and Stan. But I'll just go forward with what I've been doing with the school. I've been watching that UV system, and knock on wood, it hasn't changed at all. It's working. I went there Friday and I went there today, and it looks just fine. I checked the salt system. I think it was flushed once in 5-6 weeks, which is all great, all good. But I did also notice one thing, that when I came home from the Cape Friday and went there Saturday to look at it, that they had crap all in the back behind the dumpster again. It looked like a bear had got in there. And then I thought about it. I said, no, I don't think it was a bear. I think they left a bag out there or something. An animal got into it. And I was just about ready to hit Olivia up with it again. And I said, well, let's just wait and see what they do. But when I went there today, they cleaned it up relatively. Not my way of cleaning it up, but it wasn't scraped, but they cleaned 90% of it up. Okay. So I don't think there's a bear problem. I think that what they had was some kind of animal got into it, a coon or something, and made a mess. Okay. Saying that, moving forward, like I said before, I'm in the process pretty soon here of setting up a maintenance program. I've already talked to Mark about it, March and September. At the end of June, I'm going to switch UV systems so that the one that's running now will go idle, and the one that's idle will go running. I'm going to see how that works and see if we can get a little bit more running charge out of these units and save some money. Just a second, I'm looking at my notes. Oh, I also haven't got a response back from Olivia. I don't know if I told you all this, that I'm trying to work out an arrangement where we have a different gas supplier to just work on the gas boiler. But it came to my attention, I believe it was after the meeting, that in order to do that, most instances, unless you get a private person, you have to buy gas from them. So that hasn't been concluded yet, but Olivia was supposed to send me consumption and what she's paying for gas. I saw her personally about it, and she was going to send me the information. She didn't yet, so that's an ongoing thing that I haven't resolved yet. Just a moment. Did I say I said about the church committee? Did it just got that?
Mm-hmm.
Switching UVs, getting. Just bear with me a second. And now, the town office. Mark said he would come over. I told him I'd call him by now, but I've been too busy I'm too backed up with stuff I have to do here, to go and take a look at the building and see what we're going to do to fix it before we consider cleaning it. that being said, when I talked to Stan Saturday morning, Stan wants to entertain the idea of looking in the attic as well to see how that looks. We can do a more thorough look, but I'm going to have to put it off for a week until I catch up. Once that happens, then we can entertain them. Like Mark, I'll try to get Mark to keep his promise to help me to, and I know you're going to get busy pretty shortly, Mark, to help me seal what we need to seal in that place, and then I suggest that we make a 2-week span where we wait and see if we have any
Mice.
mice come in the building. And I did not read anything that Stan had a volume amount of stuff that I would like to read through. He's done a lot of work for finding out alternatives to our costs and what we need to do. And I'm really looking forward to reading it all tomorrow, the next day. But I think we can hold off on that right this second while Mark, Stan, and myself meet in the next week or so and do an assessment of what we need to do to keep the mice coming out.
So are you saying
That's it.
add it to the next agenda?
Yeah, I can definitely meet if Stan and Mark can do it. I can meet with Stan and Mark before the second. But I just need the next week to catch up. I'm really behind here. I got grass coming up to my knees, and
Okay.
you don't need to know the details. It's just I got a lot to do.
Okay. All right.
That's
Yes.
it.
Okay. Stan, I think you did a nice job looking at some alternatives from just Surf Pro. So some of them aren't going to come out this way, and it is a lot to look over. And so we'll put this on the agenda for the next meeting. In the meanwhile, Gwen, I'll see you in a second, Stan. Gwen, have you caught any mice this week?
You're muted.
One?
No, she said she's muted.
You're muted. You're muted, Gwen.
I haven't put a trap out, so it's kind of hard to catch them when I don't have a trap there.
Okay. Stan, what did you want to say?
Yeah, I wanted to express some concern about Mark and Bruce and myself going up into the attic area. I took seriously what Bruce was kind enough to initially research. I pulled up the CDC data, and their comment is that for anyone operating in an environment like that they have a HEPA mask, they have rubber boots, they have rubber or latex gloves, and they have some kind of clothing that they don't mind getting dirty, but want to wash completely. I'm not sure if Mark and Bruce are aware of that. So I just want to bring that up. For whatever purposes, I will do it if they're going to do it, but it involves a HEPA mask. I don't know how expensive those are or what it is even. I assume it's some kind of mask with some kind of filtering on it. I don't know how expensive it is to do that. And so that's that. And one other thing, if I may, looking at with the concern of Guy and Gwen as a primary concern, I want to offer that in the materials that I covered, the incidence of hantavirus has only happened in the Northeast once in 30 years. The hantavirus itself, if it's defecated from a mouse, will die in 3 days. So there's no apparent existing scenario there that right at this moment, other than anything that's recent, that is going to cause them to have adverse health conditions. If it involves a disease, in theory, the CDC says if it is untouched and existing in that spot for 5 days, it dies. So for whatever comfort that might extend to Gwen and Guy, I wanted to offer that.
Okay. Can I respond? Dot.
Go ahead, Bruce. Go ahead.
If there's no concern, we're not going to, from what I read from the CDC, it's how you handle the removal, which brings up the dust, which can cause respiratory issues. I forget the condition conditions. We're not going to be handling anything. We're just going to see if there's anything there so that we can stop them from coming in. It's good to know that our town clerks aren't initially going to probably not get sick from this. We kind of like that not that to happen, but I don't want to go on and on about whether we should do or shouldn't do. I think we should visibly look at the building and see what we can do to mitigate the problem. I'll read the information that you sent through, Stan, thoroughly, and then we can discuss it to the next meeting before we do anything, if you want to go that approach. Of course, so June 2nd, it's 2 weeks from today. So by that time, we can decide. I guess we also have to keep in mind, I'm cutting myself off, but I guess we have to keep in mind, the more we go on, the more Mark gets busy. So I would really like to move along a little bit. And I know I'm creating a problem by saying I've got to delay it a little bit because I'm backed up, but that's just the way it is. But I think if Mark's okay, if we can have a resolution of what we're going to do by June 2nd, then we can start choosing how we're going to clean up, how we're going to who and expense and all that. But in the meantime, I think we should at least have the analysis done. I don't think there's much danger there. I don't mind sticking my head up in the attic with a flat so I can look around and see if there's any mice poops. It's when you handle it, according to CDC, the one CDC that when you remove it, you have to wet it. You have to have a HEPA filter on because you can dust it up into the air. So I'm not too awful concerned about that as long as we don't start handling it all.
All right, so we'll put this on the agenda. You'll have some time to look at it. And is there anything else we have in the building commissioner's report before we move on, sir?
No, I just want to concur with Mark and Stan, if it's okay, by June 2nd, that we can get together for one half an hour stint or whatever. I'll let them speak to that. Other than that, I'm done.
Okay.
I will cooperate as best I can. If I have the time, it's yours. If I will negotiate or discuss a time that's amicable for all three of us, I can't see where it would be an obstacle. I'm sure we'll get it done.
Okay. Mark, how about you? You're the one I'm really concerned about because you're the working man of the bunch.
No, I definitely can make it work with you, Bruce. Okay. I'll make it yep. You just let me know when and I'll be there. Okay.
I'll coordinate it, guys, and get back to you both, and then we'll agree on a time and go forth that way.
Okay, very good.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, well, Mark, since you're there, we can start with you. Before you came onto the Zoom meeting, Stan noted that when he and his wife were out doing Green Up Day on Hill Road near the Rogers Culvert, he saw approximately a 2-foot weak spot by the guardrail, and he sent us pictures. I was going to call and leave you a voicemail and email the pictures over to you. It might be something that you need to address before it gets larger. So I will follow up and send you that information, Mark, and so maybe you can get in there and do a little bit of a repair to it.
Sure. Yep. I know that same exact area has been repaired before. Jimmy Rogers' driveway, when we get flood rains, the water skips his driveway culverts and comes down the side of the town road, and then it washes back down in to the brook right under the guardrail. So it eats the erosion eats the material out from under the edge of the pavement. And I have brought like 8-inch crushed ledge there prior and filled in one erosion. And I know we've had a couple of times this spring where the water did jump the bank. So I am aware of where it is, and I intend to put more stone with a little bit more cold patch over that to hold it in place. And at some point, I call it the overflow ditch, will be stone lined as well, because that took a beating as well down that section.
Okay. All right, perfect. All right, Mark, I'll let you summarize what else you have planned and,
All right. Since we last talked, I have applied more 1.5-inch crushed gravel over our springtime mud season flats. We had applied just plain crushed stone during mud season, and now that the roads have firmed up and dried up, we applied this gravel with the fine materials over the stone to correct the road again. So I spent a couple days on the grader going all over town. We do have another repair to do on Bennett Road. We had some winter storm damage up there that needs to get done soon. Also have the roadside mowing coming up, and then just some ongoing general maintenance. And that's if we get the time and it still fits the budget, there's 2 culverts that will be redone on the Parker Road.
okay.
Hey, Mark,
Yes.
since you brought up Parker Road, are either of those culverts that we were going to do as part of the grant?
Yes. One of them is part of the grant. Yep.
Okay. So I assume you haven't heard anything new from Green Mountain Power on when they think they're going to do their stuff?
I have not. The last word that I heard was they had one section of poles to replace, and I haven't seen it done yet. So I'm assuming that they're on somewhere else doing the same.
Okay. So I'm going to reach out to Alan May because he told me around now is probably the time I should do it. So I'm going to write to him and basically ask him if we can get an extension on the grant work till the end of the year to do that. I mean, at some point, I guess, if Green Mountain Power doesn't end up doing their stuff this year, we may have to just make the best of it and do whatever we can around that. Because I don't think we'll probably get an extension beyond the end of this year. But I'm going to go ahead and write to him and call him and ask him to give us that extension, which he said he was pretty sure he would do. So then doesn't mean that we can't go ahead and do some of that work now. Like you say, if you get an opportunity and the culverts make sense, do whatever you can do, and that's fine. We just won't have to have it all done by June 30th if we get the extension. So
that would be great. That would be great.
I'll confirm with you either way once I hear from him, just to make sure we know what we have to work with.
All right, I appreciate that, Dave. Thank you.
Sorry, that was my only question. Sorry to interrupt you.
Anything else, Mark?
I heard you talk about the gate at the town yard, and would you like me to purchase a combination lock, or how did you leave that?
Well, yeah, I would think a combination lock would work better than a key lock, only because you can then say the combination is, to whom it needs to be told. I would have the town clerk know the number, and you and Archie, and then you can deal with that versus having a key, and that would be ideal.
Okay. I just have to, for scheduling and for equipment delivery or materials, just maybe make sure that I leave it unlocked during the time of shipping and receiving purposes.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could just work around that, but to have them wide open is a real invitation for, it's an attractive nuisance in one way, and it's also, you know,
Right.
materials that
Well,
way.
in the winter months, because of the, you know, the when the road plowing and road sanding takes place, it's so random hours that Archie leaves it open for the winter months. So normally what I've done is by now I start closing the gate and I wrap the chain around it, and that's been a great deterrent. I haven't ever had anybody open the gate with just the chain without the lock. But I can see the concern for you know, opportunity for wrongdoing, the way everything is turning nowadays. So I don't have a problem with keeping the gate closed for the summer months as well.
Right. And I think the signage is good. It does say keep out, so, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
And as I said, we'll look at security as the time goes on when we have a new shed.
Sure. Okay.
All right. So as far as budget goes for the highway fund, I'm still learning a little bit about it. You know, we don't have all the numbers or all our ducks in a row yet, but if you have any paperwork to hand into the treasurer, I'm sure he would appreciate it.
Okay. Yep.
Anything else, Mark?
No, that's pretty much all I have for you at this time.
All right, excellent. Well, all right, then we'll move on to communications. Pretty straightforward. It was the email conversations between the Wi-Fi hotspot people, which I dealt with. There is a paperwork on census data that came in the regular mail back in April. And, you know, that was all that I found at the town hall. So next we'll go into payroll warrants. All right, everybody had gotten up. Stan, did you get the payroll warrants emailed to you by me or from Mike? I wasn't sure.
I believe they were from you, and thank you.
Okay, so I did ask to make sure that he takes Shelby off and make sure that you're part of the email blast.
No, you're very thorough. He did. I assume he'll send them next time around.
Right. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve payroll warrant number 2021-19 dated May 12th, 2021 in the amount of $2,088.00. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Stan. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving payroll warrant 2021-19 dated May 12th in the amount of $2,088 even signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Payroll warrant has been approved. The next we have here is our accounts payable warrant. I'd like to make a motion that we approve accounts payable warrant 2021-20 dated May 19th, 2021 in the amount of $11,495. May I have a second?
Is there a chance to ask a question?
Yes, after this.
Yes.
Okay.
Second it.
Seconded from Bruce. Any discussion? Stan, you
Curious.
want to ask a question?
Yeah, Coda and Coda, is that, how many furnaces is that covering? Is it the town office and the daycare?
No,
No?
not
Okay.
the daycare.
It's the town office, and it's a town office. The daycare is a separate entity.
Okay. Thank you for answering.
Okay.
That's all I have for that question.
Okay. Any other questions? discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving accounts payable warrant 2021-20 dated May 19th in the amount of $11,495 even signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the accounts payable warrant has been voted on unanimously to be accepted. Okay. All right, set agenda for the next meeting Wednesday, June 2nd, 2021. I have on it a carryover, the Historical Society of the Round Schoolhouse Grant, which is presented either by Joseph Dutton or Doug Wellman. I will add the town pest control. I will add the Wi-Fi hotspot question. And is there anything else at this time that I should put on the agenda?
May I ask a question about one of those coming up, or should we
Yes.
do that to the next meeting?
I don't understand what you mean.
Well, the letter that I saw from the fellow at the Vermont Historic Preservation, was it Ben Doyle maybe? Led me to believe that before he would approve any of the items that were to be done, he needed to see the cover letter, he needed to see the bids, the scope of work, and then I think he said, we'll try to turn it around as quickly as possible. So, and the money needed to be spent by the 1st of August, if my memory is not failing me, and 2, if I understood the letter correctly. So is it my understanding that none of those materials that he is requiring is available currently? And
That
if
is
not,
correct.
that means that he's going to get it in June, and God knows whether early or late. And we don't know exactly what he meant by as quickly as possible. Is it physically possible to do the work that is wanting to be done in 30 to 45 days?
No, I think it just has to be approved, the work.
No, I think
If I
it has to
No,
be
it
understand-
didn't say that.
No, do I understand? The work has to be done by August 1st?
Yeah.
Yes.
And they won't release the
Really?
money until it is.
Right.
Well, oh boy.
Well,
like my father used to say, rots or ruck. You're going to
all
get.
right. I was a little disappointed when Joseph said he wouldn't have any information for us at this meeting. And I certainly would encourage, I don't know, Bruce or Stan, if you wanted to give him a call and see if he needs any, or you want me to give him a call to see where he's at on this. I have a bunch of other phone calls. I would appreciate if someone would pick up that.
Scott,
Gwen?
he's out of town for a week. He's in California.
Well, Doug Wellman is also on that committee.
Yeah, that should work.
Would somebody like to call Doug Wellman and ask him a couple of those questions that Stan just asked us? Bruce or Stan, would you consider doing that?
To keep me out of it, please. I got too much to do right now. If you saw the work I have to do right now, you would understand.
I don't have a problem calling Doug and asking him about
All
it.
right. If not, I was going to
helpful and plan on things rather than, if I can be of any help, I'm glad to be of any help.
All right. So if you wouldn't mind, this way we can make sure that they understand what needs to be brought for the select board at the next meeting in order for us to approve it, to pass it on for other people to approve it. Otherwise, we are throwing $5,000 away, I think.
That's right.
I know the minutes said that Joe said that it would be approved if he was providing them with the information apparently verbally, but that's not what the letter says. And it might have been a simple misunderstanding. But I know what I read, and that's usually what statutorily, legally ends up being the backbone of the argument. So I will get back to you as soon as possible.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Stan, for picking up on that. Okay, if there's any other items that you would like to see added to the June 2nd agenda, please let me know. And if not, then we can go on to item number 12. Yes, Stan.
Yeah. I just want to know what to tell the 4 people that have indicated in terms of the dilemma at the town office with mice. where we are on this. Is it to be indicated that we are simply going to take it up at our next meeting? There's no entertaining of possible bids or anything like that? I don't know.
Free estimates, we can certainly have someone come in to doing a free estimate. I think you said there was one vendor who wanted a $50
Yeah.
estimate fee.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we have to wait for the next meeting.
No problem with me.
Okay.
I just want to know what to
And I
tell
just-
them, since I told them I would get back to them. I appreciated their contact. And
Oh, okay. Sorry. No, I was confused. Right. Because at the moment we only have the one estimate from Servpro, right? We're just,
Right.
that is
the
correct.
question is whether we should try to get more estimates.
Well, I would think we could, I mean, if I didn't put it down to vote, I don't know how you wanted to do this, but there is one company that would for $50 come in and then apply that $50 if they got the job to the job.
Well, there were three scenarios. One fellow I spoke with late this afternoon indicated he'd be happy to come down this Friday and have an estimate. He could begin work next week, late next week. You got somebody in a rush. Another person said they like to group things with other jobs, and the third person said, he'd come down if we wanted to. So, again, I guess the overall time frame, it's not apparently an emergency situation. I certainly don't have problem putting people off. I just wanted to know what I should be telling them so that I'm representing the board as much as possible, in terms of input, consensus, whatever, rather than a loose gun going out and saying something that may or may not be true.
Mm-hmm.
But is there any reason if we have if there's somebody who's willing to come take a look and give us an estimate at no cost, we shouldn't miss out on that opportunity.
Right.
I
mean,
appreciate
Bruce,
that
do you
opinion.
agree with that? Bruce,
Yes.
do you have any problems with that?
Yes, I do. I do agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And purchase policy, just as an instance, given the dollar amount, requires a minimum of 2 estimates, which is where I was coming from when I offered to be of assistance here, unless Servpro is a preferred vendor. If they're not, then we have some due diligence, and the issue is try to be as saving of money as we can. So I hope what I did is not a waste of time in some people's opinion.
No, I think it'd be good. All right, I would think that we can get people to come and do estimates, and if you're not available, give me a call. I can certainly come down and open doors if the estimate is at a time that somebody can't be there for.
Thank you. That's very kind.
All right. Anything else?
Dot,
Yes, sir.
I would just like to remind everyone to please have any sort of financial monies that are owed to them, whether it be payroll, equipment, or anything else. We have 2 more meetings before the end of the fiscal year. It's really important that we have all these numbers in so that we can have a understandable financial report for June 30th.
Okay, point taken. All right, at this time, I am going to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. If I can have a second.
Second it.
Seconded by Bruce. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjourning this evening's meeting at this time signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None. All right, the meeting is adjourned at, what time is it? 8:10, no, 8:31 p.m.